Right now, you can order food, watch infinite entertainment, gamble, watch corn, talk to hundreds of people, and buy any product you'd like without even leaving your bed. Except for basically all of human history until very recently, life didn't work like that at all. Homo sapiens have been around for around 300,000 years, and smartphones have only been around for about 20. And while now life is objectively easier and more pleasant compared to the majority of our history, we have people now feeling more depressed, anxious, and mentally ill than ever before. So, why is it that with all of the comfort and convenience of modern life, people still end up feeling empty or lacking something that truly makes them feel good about themselves and their lives? Well, the reality is that the easy dopamine and constant satisfaction that we experience every day today has stripped us of a core essential piece of human existence. And that feel good that we get today is shallow and hollow compared to the feel good of the past. Let me explain. So, first off, diving a little into human history and struggle. For almost all of human existence, survival was difficult. Rewards were delayed, and simply surviving required effort. And we had to worry about starving, predators, harsh weather, diseases, war. And humans evolved under these conditions, which are starkly different than the environment that we live in now. Now, over time, we developed strategies and tools to make things more certain, to make survival easier, but it still took hard work, and we had to hunt, we had to farm, cook all of our meals ourselves. And this also meant that the food that we ate was healthy, it was grown from the earth. And it meant that that home cooked meal hit so much harder at the end of the day, at the end of a long day of work, knowing what it took to make that meal happen, right? And you compare that to now, you just pull out your smartphone, you get an Uber Eats, 20 minutes, you got a McDonald's combo delivered to your doorstep. And it satisfies your hunger, but it costs you double the price for convenience, and you feel like crap after because it's unhealthy, creepy slop. And yet you might even be thinking afterwards, was it even worth me paying that 35 bucks to have a crappy burger and fries delivered to me? I'm sure we've all been there after a late night Uber Eats order. Now, never mind that this has changed our entire relationship with food, leading to obesity crisis, eating disorders, other health issues. But the bigger issue that I want to address has to do with the brain and the feel good chemicals. So what are our feel good chemicals? Okay. The brain produces chemicals that make us feel good. And they're released when we do certain things that our brain wants to reward us for. And these chemicals include dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. And each of these serves a very important purpose. However, many of these have also been hijacked in the modern day by companies or governments, institutions, whatever, in order to profit off of your human nature or to manipulate you into fitting their goals in some way. So, first, let's look at the big one, dopamine. You've probably heard this word, it gets thrown around all the time these days, and there's a reason for that. Now, dopamine is the chemical that's most tied into the feeling of reward in your brain. And its purpose is to motivate you to seek survival rewards. So, like, back in the day, this would have motivated you to go out and hunt. And then at the end of the hunt, when you get the kill, you get a dopamine release. And now you're satisfied and you're going to be able to feed your family and you feel good. Your hard work paid off. You get to eat. You get to survive another week. However, now everything in our modern society is designed to hack and plug into our dopamine receptors to get us feeling good instantly. Because when our brains associate that reward with a certain product or a service or an activity, it will want to come back for more. So we don't have that delayed gratification earned reward anymore. We just jump straight to the reward feeling, right? And so social media's right? Social media companies use algorithms to identify and share posts with you that are going to give you the fastest and the biggest dopamine hits so that you just keep scrolling for hours, making them money, right? Gambling sites, they draw people in with promises of free money, big wins, flashing lights, exciting vibes, only for people to end up becoming addicted and blowing their hard earned money, even going into debt in some cases. Fast food restaurants, they load up their food with the most hyper palatable, tasty ingredients that light your brain up when you bite into it. And then afterwards, you feel crappy, you feel sluggish, you have a drop, right? So the issue is that our brain is developed for occasional rewards that were earned through hard work and pursuit. But now we get that reward feeling at the touch of a button. And that's why the reward feeling can feel fleeting in the modern day, is because it wasn't really earned. It's basically fake dopamine. Instead of actually having a nice conversation with your friend, you just scrolled on TikTok. Instead of finding a partner and dating and developing a relationship with somebody to be intimate with, you just pulled up some website on your phone. Instead of cooking with fresh ingredients, you just got the pizza delivery, right? Next is serotonin. So, serotonin has to do with your mood, your confidence, your social status, and things that boost serotonin include going outside, being in natural sunlight, belonging to a group or community, getting physical exercise, adhering to healthy routines, okay? You compare that to today where most of us spend our days inside, right? You wake up, you go from the house to the car, from the car to the office, and that's if you're not working from home. You might just wake up, walk from your bed to your computer, and that's it, right? Maybe if you're lucky, you spend an hour or two outside in sunlight the whole day. And when we socialize from home. We play games from home. We talk to people on the phone. We talk to them over Discord. We are not physically present when we communicate with people, right? And these behaviors are antithetical to how our system is designed to make us feel better, which, right, we need to actually go outside. We need to actually communicate with people in person. We need to feel like we belong to a community in order to feel the serotonin. And when we're lacking that, then we have increased feelings of depression and anxiety. Okay, next is oxytocin. This is the love chemical, and this is released when you give your mom a hug. It's released when you cuddle with your significant other or do other things, right? Um, when you create a strong bond, a friendship, okay? It relies on emotional connection, shared time, and physical touch. But nowadays, we talk to each other without even having to look at each other. We don't have to make eye contact. We don't even have to see each other. We just talk over the phone. Many people these days, especially young men, with dating apps, right? Like it's very difficult for a lot of people to even find partners that they want to build a serious relationship or start a family with. And then on top of that, you add the shifting societal values, pushing the narrative of, you want to delay starting a family because you want to get an education, you want to start your career. Okay, maybe now you're in your late 30s, you can think about starting a family. And what you're left with is people that are not connecting with each other the way that they were meant to be. They're connecting less authentically, and they're connecting later in life. And once again, you're left with people that are not feeling fulfilled because a critical piece of their brain chemistry is not tapped into how it has been throughout our entire history. And finally, endorphins. Okay, so our endorphins are more physical, they're more related to pain and euphoria, and they usually come from doing something that's actually physically difficult, right? Like a workout, for example, or in the more traditional sense, doing manual labor, right? Um, Building something, lifting something heavy, these are the kinds of things that create endorphins. And in the modern world, everything is designed to be as easy and comfortable as possible. People don't have to push themselves out of their comfort zones. They don't have to do manual work just to put the food on the table. But by avoiding the hard work, they're unknowingly depriving themselves of the endorphins that they would otherwise be getting. once again leaving people feeling that they are lacking something and leading to more feelings of depression and anxiety. So, moving on to part three, I want to address comfort, which we just talked about a little bit in that last bit. But basically, the trend of convenience and comfort can be easily shown in something as simple as how we dress, right? We've all seen the old timey photos where everybody was dressed to the nines, no matter the occasion. Guys would be putting on a whole three-piece suit just to walk to the corner store, and even criminals in mugshots look like they could have just been coming from a business meeting, right? Now, just throw on the sweatpants and hoodie. Oh, this thing's got a stain on it. Whatever, doesn't matter. Most of us are going out of our way to avoid wearing things like suits or any kind of, uncomfortable formal clothing unless absolutely necessary. And now I'm not saying that, we should all have to put on a tuxedo just to go buy some milk, but this trend, it shows the deeper picture. The humans used to really try hard. They put in effort and they had strong values and standards to uphold, and they cared about these little things. Nowadays, any of these little things, if they're an inconvenience, we just toss them out the window. And one other example that you can see this with is architecture, right? The beautiful sculpted stone buildings that we used to create have been replaced by profit maxing or efficiency maxing, boring square designs. And where we used to pour our care, creativity, skill, craftsmanship into something, creating something beautiful for society has been replaced by just stripping things down to the bare bones for efficiency and ease. And I know that I'm not the only person that's, visited a medieval cathedral, or, seen some beautiful architecture that was built 1,000 years ago and wondered, we went backwards somehow, like where did we go backwards as a society that we used to create this beautiful art and now everything is just like gray slop, right? So moving on to part four, which is the loss of boredom. One of the big effects that modern technology has had is that it's effectively killed boredom, right? If you're bored, there's 100 things that you can do within the comfort of your own home to essentially squash that. Whereas it used to be that we had to intentionally find a way to entertain ourselves if we were bored. If you were home alone with nothing to do, you either had to simply sit there with your thoughts, which people nowadays avoid like the plague, or you had to do something like read a book or draw something, or you had to get up, get dressed, go out to the pub or watering hole to actually converse with a friend and see somebody and get some social interaction. And these times of being simply alone with yourself with nothing to do actually create a lot of positive things for humans. For one, it forces you to meditate upon your own thoughts and feelings and to actually contend with that thought that's been bothering you, that you've been trying to suppress. You actually have to sit there and think about it, or to sit and make a plan for what you're going to do the next week, or the next thing you want to do in your business, the next thing you want to do for your wife, something. Forces you to sit down and learn something, or to be creative, or to actively seek out something to cure the boredom. Which once again directly ties into the dopamine and the serotonin as learning, creating, socializing, going out, doing something that maybe is harder than just sitting at home, creates a reward and leaves you feeling better at the end of the day. Whereas meanwhile, in the modern era, we avoid boredom at all costs, right? We have social media, YouTube, streaming, video games, just to fill in that gap where you would otherwise be forced to sit with your thoughts and do something about it. Instead, you're able to just procrastinate and distract your thoughts away for hours, creating a temporary relief, but eventually that will fade and cause those thoughts and emotions that maybe you've been suppressing or avoiding to flood back, sometimes even stronger than before. And now moving into one of the last sections here, which is the loss of purpose. And this is the last big topic that I want to talk about. And it kind of incorporates a lot of the things that I mentioned in the other topics into one big kind of conglomerate. But basically, historically, survival itself created meaning. We physically built things, we raised families together to ensure survival and pass on our legacy. We directly contributed to ourselves, our families, our communities, and we depended on each other for survival. Whereas nowadays, people are much more disconnected from the process of that purpose. Instead of seeing the literal fruits of your labor as your crop matures and eventually ends up on your dinner table in a meal cooked by your loving wife and enjoyed with your children, now you're just putting numbers in a sheet and answering emails about somebody else's problem, making money for somebody else so they can pay you so you can afford your bills. You do the work, you get the money, but that direct relationship with the labor and the reward is not there like it used to be. And with people marrying later and later, they're having less kids. These days, with the economy, people can't even afford to place a live sometimes. The other critical purpose, which is creating a family, has also been diminished. Instead of getting intimacy, people are now actually getting intimacy through online. They're either watching things, OnlyFans, or people are even talking to AI chatbot companions now to feel some kind of a connection with someone because they're missing that critical piece of finding a spouse, having children, creating a life together. So we consume more than any generation in history, and yet we still feel empty. Because we replaced the hard, uncomfortable things in life that actually mattered with cheap, quick fix imitations. So, with all of this in mind, right, I don't want to get you depressed. So, we're going to leave it on a positive note and talk what can you do to help break yourself out of this modern dopamine loop and get yourself feeling better? Well, the answer is you need to actually lean in and embrace some of those harder or uncomfortable things that maybe you've been avoiding, right? A really easy place to start is just going to the gym. Working out is something difficult, it's uncomfortable at the beginning, and it's something that you can do that will reward you with legitimate, hard earned dopamine and endorphins, while also making you healthier, stronger, more attractive, improving your life in the long run. Right? Next up, try and create some kind of a simple routine and stick with it. This can be as easy as just waking up and going to sleep at the same time every day, even if you don't necessarily have to, right? For me, I work with clients and I don't always start work at the same day. And I've gone through periods where, on Monday and Wednesday, I would wake up at 7:30, and Tuesday and Thursday, I would sleep in until 11, and then Friday, I would wake up at 9. And what I found was that was messing me up. Not only did I feel not as rested, but mentally I didn't feel as good. So I started just, okay, it doesn't matter what time I'm my client, I'm just going to wake up at the same time every day. And guess what? I started feeling better doing that, right? So simple things, simple, easy, healthy routines can help with that. You should also try to go out of your way to create some sort of real in-person social group, social interaction. You could try joining a club or a sports team, a run club, or even just setting up a weekly or bi-weekly night with your friends to get together in person instead of just talking over Discord and sending each other memes back and forth in the Instagram DMs, right? Okay, next, another thing you can do, pick a hobby or a skill, an art, a course, something that you're interested in that you want to improve on. And usually it will be a little bit difficult at first because you're learning, but if you stick with it and maybe you divert a couple hours of the day that you would have otherwise been spending scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or playing a video game or watching Netflix, and you spend 1 or 2 hours of that time learning a skill or a hobby, improving something, it's 6 months. If you stick with it, the reward that you get will be so much better than a lifetime of scrolling through reels, right? And speaking from my own personal experience, I compete in bodybuilding, and competing in bodybuilding has been the most rewarding thing in my life because it's so hard, right? Like when I have had to adhere to a grueling diet and training regimen for 6 months. I've had to tell myself no every single day to things that I wanted. No, 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 you can't do that. You can't do this. And stay on that discipline and do the hard thing and avoid the easy thing. When you finally get that payoff and you see it through and you're able to say, I did it, that feeling is so much more powerful than any quick hit dopamine that you could possibly experience. So maybe happiness was never supposed to come instantly. The modern age gave us comfort, but somewhere along the way, we lost the things that actually make us human. So, my advice to you is to do the hard thing. Cook the dinner at home even though you're lazy. Wake up at 7 even if you can get away with 7:30. Do the workout you've been dreading. Spend time in person with the people that you love and disconnect from the phone and get outside as much as you can. It might sound like simple advice at the end there, but it really is true. And if you enjoyed this video, if you connected with anything that I said, I greatly appreciate a like, comment, subscribe. And I hope you all have a great day. And I hope you all are able to lean into some of those harder things in life and start earning yourself some real dopamine. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.